Thanks everyone for joining me. My name is April with Your Photo Travel Guide, and today I'm excited to bring back an old friend, a fellow photographer named Lou Cifelli. Hopefully, I didn't murder his name, but I've been a long admirer of his work. So, welcome, Lou. It's good to see you.
Thanks. It's great to see you too, April. It's been a while.
Yeah, it sure has. So, when did you start taking pictures?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. I started in art when I was 8 years old. I was pencil sketching dolphins and horses, and I went from actual pencil sketching to trying to get into a little bit of color work. So I tried a little colored pencil, and I failed. And then I said, well, let me try one more thing. Let me try oil painting. I tried oil painting, and I'm so detail oriented that it was really difficult for me to be that abstract and create things with just a brush stroke. I just couldn't do it. I said, so what's left? And I started photography. So I started taking pictures in 1972.
Oh my gosh.
And that was when I had my first single lens reflex camera back in the day that Yashica was making cameras. And then I got pretty much my first camera, my first experience with a camera was my father's Kodak Retina
Oh wow.
from Germany that he got when he was in the Korean War. So being in the age of digital, it's unbelievable what you can do now with photography. I love it.
Yeah, it's so true. So, what is your favorite subject to photograph?
I, I concentrate primarily on birds. I mean, that's probably my biggest passion. I love to see just the way they behave, the little quirky things that they do, some of their habits, and to me, they're just fascinating to watch. And to be honest, I wasn't really that familiar with different types of birds, and I had to learn them as I photographed them. So I
Mm.
would photograph the birds, and I bought about 4 bird encyclopedias,
Oh
and I
wow.
started referencing them to find out what kind of bird I just took a photograph of. And from that point on, I just really dove into birding. I also like general nature photography. I love to go to the gardens and shoot the gardens, the flowers and the paths and the wooded areas and those kinds of things I like to do. I love to go to air shows, particularly the World War II airplanes, all the little warbirds. I usually go to those once or twice a year. And the only other place that I regularly shoot is occasionally I go to a car show.
Hmm.
See some of the classic cars and some of the cars from way back in the 40s and 50s.
Wow. So
So
when
pretty
do what
diverse.
yeah, it is diverse, but when do you think the birds kind of captured your can you think back to what really kind of
Yes, and it was a bird.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
I coming from the East Coast, I didn't see many birds of prey. And I heard of this bird. It was called an osprey hawk. I was like, "Oh, what's an osprey hawk? I never heard of that." So
Yeah.
I said, well, where can I find one? I talked to a few people that I knew. They said, well, go to Lake Balboa in Van Nuys, California. I said, okay. So I went there and I saw my first osprey. It
Oh,
was
wow.
perched up in the tree. And I saw that bird and I watched that bird fly around. I saw that bird dive and catch fish and do some amazing things. And I was hooked. I was hooked from that point on. It was just like, what other birds am I? You see birds or you hear birds, but you don't really look for them.
Right.
I started looking for them all the time.
Yeah. For me, it's like you said, like the hummingbird behind you. Even in Vegas now, it's like I started seeing the hummingbirds, and all of a sudden I was like sitting outside. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I got to get a hummingbird feeder just so I can kind of draw them and just watch them. But I have not done what you've done with the hummingbird photography. It's just amazing.
I love hummingbirds. And to me, they're fascinating. And the funny thing about birding, and one of the things I've learned from my experience with birds, is you don't really see them. You really have to listen for them. And I start to recognize calls or sounds that they may make, and I can identify a bird from that. And with hummingbirds, yeah, I mean, they're so small. I mean, it's almost
Yes.
impossible to see them. So you hear them and you just kind of look to find a location where the sound's coming from, and you just wait until you find them.
Right. Yeah. So what is one of the messages you want to convey with your photographs?
Just, I think we take a lot of things for granted. We don't really realize what's right in front of us. And sometimes we fail to see, we fail to look. We're so busy with other things in our lives that we walk by things. We don't really look at things. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many things you can see. I mean, you walk through a wooded area. You don't just see trees and grass. You see light, you see sun, you see colors. But you have to really pay attention to it. And too many times we just forget about all that. We're just too busy doing everything else. And to me, I think it's just a loss. I mean, nature is out there and there's some beautiful things out there in the world and we're just missing them because we're not paying attention.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. And I think the camera, at least I found, it forces me to look for other things and kind of slow down.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And a lot of times it's just a matter of fact of slowing down that really makes you stop and think about things for a while. And with a camera, you have a mission, so to speak.
Yes.
And the mission is you're not going to walk around with your camera. You're going to photograph something. And sometimes you have to work at it because it's not always there. You have to look for it. You have to be very, very patient with birds. Oh my God. If you don't have any patience, you might as well quit.
Definitely. I definitely agree on that. So how do you feel digital photography has changed your work, your personal work?
Well, I got into digital kind of late. I started digital in 2007. And on that particular occasion, I was on a trip in Italy, and I had taken a film camera with me, an old EOS 3. As a matter of fact, I still have that camera. And I brought my digital camera with me. It was, I think it was a 30D, Canon 30D.
Mm-hmm.
And the first day out, we went to Rome. I went into the Forum, and I started taking photographs with the film camera.
Right.
And then I said, I had a different lens on the digital camera. I grabbed the digital camera, started taking pictures, and then from that point on, that was it. I was hooked, and I committed to digital. And from that point on, I committed totally to digital, and I just shot strictly digital. Um, I've always been into computers. Even when I was shooting film, I did a lot of things digitally. I would scan photographs.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I do print my own work. Um, I have printers, 17-inch printer that I use for my own personal work. Very interested in that. And digital to me wasn't too much of a transition because when I was shooting film, I was scanning it, so I was digitally enhancing it anyways. So I'm at a point now where everything is digital.
Yeah. Oh, that's great that you print your own work. I was just going to
Oh,
ask
it's
about post-processing, and it sounds like that's part of what you enjoy doing.
And I think that I think a lot of people don't realize that printing really enhances your photography. It gives you an opportunity. I mean, we all look at the screen and we can see an image, but the printed image is completely different. And I find myself being a lot more, probably a lot more aware of composition because when you see it in a printed form, you really get a better grasp of what it is, what you did, or what you missed. So
Mm-hmm.
and then the color work that goes with printing,
Yeah.
it's great. It really pays off.
Yeah. That's nice. So what kind of planning would you say goes into some of your photographs?
I have certain places that I like to go. I have certain times of day I like to go. Unfortunately, living in California, you're a little bit limited in travel
Right.
because travel can be horrendous if you go at the wrong time. So a lot of times I get tied up in midday shooting. but I have had some success midday shooting. I prefer the mornings. The mornings to me, I think you just have better, really have better light. The light's not so harsh. You're not dealing with some really nasty kinds of reflections,
Yeah.
um, those kinds of things. But during the day, probably around 10 o'clock in the morning, I generally shoot for 3 hours in a shift, 3 to 4 hours. I go to the gardens. I go to the Sepulveda Wildlife Reserve, which for birding is fantastic.
Oh, nice.
There's a location in Irvine Recreational Park that it's very large, but it has a lot of different things that go on there. It has a little zoo inside the actual park, which is kind of neat. But the birding there is very good also. The wildlife there is good. Um, and then probably the other place that I'd like to go would be the Huntington Gardens. That place, the Huntington Library is incredible.
Yeah,
It's
and the
just
gardens
incredible.
are massive. I mean, you can walk
Yes.
for miles and
Oh,
miles.
yeah. Yeah, I particularly like the cactus garden. There's a lot of bird activity in the cactus garden, a lot of hummingbirds in the cactus gardens.
So what are some of your tips for the hummingbirds?
The biggest tip that I can give anyone on hummingbirds is you really have to learn to listen to them. You have to know what kind of sounds they make, and you will recognize them because they're very distinct. They're kind of they're shrilly and kind of loud, so it's really hard to miss them.
Yeah.
And if you can hear them, then you can find them. And then once you find them, you have to be extremely patient. But the good thing about hummingbirds is hummingbirds are very territorial. They're their behaviors are very repeatable. They'll go to the same branch, the same limb, the same location. They'll go back and forth. So a lot of times, what I'll find myself doing is I'll find a hummingbird perch, for example,
Right.
and, and after a certain amount of time, I'll take a certain amount of photographs of the bird perched. And then what I'll find is the bird, after a certain amount of time, will fly away and it starts to feed. So then you follow them to that location. It's usually not far away. And I could stay there for half an hour, 45 minutes, waiting for this behavior to repeat itself to get the shot that I wanted. You have to be careful of the light.
Yeah.
You want to try to keep the light behind you, and with birds, that's very difficult to do. You have to know your camera well enough to be able to get into situations like a situation where the bird is backlit,
Mm-hmm.
or the situation where the bird is in some kind of a bush or a hedge or some kind of a plant, and they're really in the shade. So the camera gear I have set to perform certain functions that make those shots possible.
Nice. Yeah, that's very helpful. Yeah, the hummingbird behind you right now, the light coming through its wings is just
Yeah,
fabulous.
yeah, and you know, this was my first move to mirrorless.
Oh, it was.
Yes, it was.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
yeah, yeah. This that particular shot was shot with a Canon R6 Mark II and the 100 to 400 millimeter version 2 lens from Canon. Um, I've got a couple of RF lenses now, and I find as I've gotten older, I'm a little more sensitive to the weight.
Yes.
And the weight of some of these RF lenses, it's incredible. They're so light and easy to carry. I can walk around for hours with the RF 100 to 400, and the type of image quality, it's very, very, very good, extremely good, just as good.
Nice.
I also shoot with an R7, which is Canon, it's crop factor. So that gives me that little bit of extra reach. And with a 100 to 400, that gets me out to about 640 millimeter on the long end.
Right.
That's great for birds in flight. It's also good for those hummingbirds too. You don't have to get that close. I mean, you got to respect their space. Any kind of nature, you have to respect their space. So that gives me an opportunity to step a little bit further away and probably a little bit less noticeable and shoot with a crop factor camera that gives me extremely good results.
Right. Do you use a tripod? Tripod or no tripod?
Absolutely not. Totally handheld. And I don't have anything against people that use tripods, but I feel like I'm too limited.
Right.
I don't have that kind of range and the kind of flexibility. And with birds, to be honest, unless you invest in a tripod with a gimbal head and spend an awful lot of money just to get the gear to set the camera up, to me, I just prefer being using the camera handheld.
Yeah, I agree. I think with birds, especially all the movement too. I see
Yeah,
people out there with the gimbal heads, and I don't know. For me, it's just like I wouldn't be. I'd be like the bird would be gone. I'd miss
yeah.
my shot.
Yeah, I think some of the people I have seen that use gimbal heads and tripods, they find a location, they stay in one location. And they usually have the light behind them, excuse me. And they'll just stay there in that one spot, but they might stay in that spot for 2 or 3 hours.
Oh
I,
wow.
I, I like to walk around and move around because the birds move around.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
it's a lot easier for me to do it that way than to wait for a bird
Yeah,
to fly into the range of my camera.
yeah. Well, let's see some of your bird photos since
Okay.
we're talking. Yeah. Should be there at the bottom.
All right. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah, pick one and
All
we'll
right.
just.
I'll go through a few of these as
Yeah.
we're gonna. All right. You should be seeing the image now in full screen.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Uh,
Yeah.
this is a mandarin duck, and I'm going to be honest with you. I've been tracking this particular duck for 20 years.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's Asian in nature. It's where its origins are, but they have been found in California. But actually, it was one. I believe there was one in New York City. So they're very rare. The problem with the mandarin duck is they're typically seasonal. So generally, when I see them, I'll see them in the winter months.
Okay.
And in the locations that I've seen them are generally locations that I have to usually search out through Audubon or Merlin or one of the apps that will actually maps out these what they call hotspots for different types of birds. Unfortunately, with the mandarin, because of its nature, it's a lot of times misidentified as a wood duck.
Oh, okay.
And what's unusual about that is wood ducks and mandarins, for some reason, I think they're brothers because they always seem to be hanging around together.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of times when I see a sighting of a wood duck, especially in a particular place, I've gone to Irvine. I've seen them in Costa Mesa. I also used to see them at the LA Arboretum in California. Those are the three locations I've seen them, but it could be 4 or 5 years between sightings.
Really? Oh, wow.
So it's always a challenge to track them down. But it's one of those goals that I think I'll never give up. I continue to pursue them. The most recent one I had was it was actually in Costa Mesa. It was last year,
Oh,
which is
nice.
relatively recent.
Yeah.
Those photos I show you, those were from 2018, around that time. And then my hummingbirds, the colors are fascinating to me. Uh,
Yes.
in the way that these colors show, it's really unusual. Sometimes I think it's just a direct reflection of the light, but there are cases where what the hummingbird will do is the hummingbird will actually show its colors. And usually
Really?
what it's usually doing is trying to either attract a female or to try to push or scare away other birds that get into its area.
Oh, okay.
So,
And I was
and that's,
actually surprised there's a quite a few different, is it varieties is the right word?
yes,
Different types of hummingbirds with different colorations.
yes, and that's a good point. As a matter of fact, I'll describe it as we go, but this particular hummingbird here is called an Allen hummingbird. This particular Allen hummingbird is a female. And the way I can tell it's a female, if you look at the throat doesn't have what they call a gorget.
Oh,
And
okay,
that
right.
is what lights up, what you see the light reflect off of. So, for an example, this one here, it looks like it's an immature male because you can see the little black specks on his throat.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's at the beginning of that development.
Wow.
And this is an Allen hummingbird. This is a male. And those are the colors it's showing on its
I
gorget.
know it's just so stunning. And then
It's
you've really thought about too the background, like where you captured it with all the yellow behind it.
in this with this particular shot. I'm going to be honest with you. And I do this several times. I saw this particular bird as I was leaving the Huntington Library. And what I did is I moved around the bird because the lighting was a little difficult. And as I moved around the bird, I got a different angle of the shot. And of course, as the angle changed, the background changed.
Oh, nice.
This is probably one of about 20 or 30 shots that I took of this particular bird. So
Well,
it's not
yeah, when
always
you're
the first shot.
right. Well, no. And if you're lucky, you're just trying to get as many as you can because sometimes through your little viewfinder, you're not sure which one might be 100% sharp or, has
Yeah.
the correct look on its head or
Well, one of the huge benefits of mirrorless is the focusing system in the mirrorless cameras is incredible. With eye focus and animal focus,
oh wow.
um, it's made photographing hummingbirds a lot easier for me. It was always a little bit of a challenge, and you have so many options. And the menu system in these cameras is just mind blowing what you can do.
Yeah, it
Uh,
really is.
yeah, most of these are shot in high speed burst. Probably about anywhere from 12 to 15 frames per second, depending on the camera. Although I have gone to electronic shutter in some cases that shoots 30 to 40 frames per second.
Oh wow.
Now, at that speed, there are some little things that may happen with the image. You might get a little bit of distortion of the wing. If you're panning and shooting, you might see a little distortion of the background. It's called rolling shutter. And what rolling shutter does is it bends things that, because the way the image is captured, it's captured a frame at a time, and it goes from the
Okay.
top of the image to the bottom of the image, and the timing is off just that little bit to create a little bit of a bend.
This hummingbird that you have on the screen right now is just so colorful. Oh my gosh.
This hummingbird was totally backlit. That was at the end of the day. This particular hummingbird was in this location for a month.
A month. Oh my
A month.
goodness.
It was at the Huntington Library. I went there 3 or 4 times in the month of January and February, I believe. So it was even extended into the second month. And I would leave at the same time, and the bird was in the same spot at the same time each time I went. It was amazing.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Like you
And
said,
he
they're
has a
very
little,
territorial, so that's its spot. It's
yeah, this was his spot. As a matter of fact, if you look beneath his beak, you'll see like a little green spot.
uh-huh.
It's kind of a marking. It's a characteristic of this particular bird. That's the same bird.
Oh. Wow.
Exactly the same bird.
That's
It's just
so, yeah,
look at
different angle and the way the
yeah,
light is hitting his, yeah, you're right, the coloration.
all the light was behind him.
Wow.
Yeah, this one here was side lit. The sun was coming from the left-hand side, and you can see the yellow and the orange in his throat. It's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's just stunning.
Now, this is when the black part of the throat isn't actually a color when they're in the shade and they're feeding. This is a
Wow.
female. This is a female Allen. This is the same female Allen.
Oh my goodness.
You look closely at his eye, you can actually see the brown in the bird's eye.
Yeah, I do see it. It's incredible.
It's incredible. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was just totally amazed.
Wow.
Here's, here's a little guy doing his stretch.
I know. What a great pose. Oh my goodness.
And you know what? That's the same bird
Is
that you
it?
saw. Yes, exactly the same bird in the same spot at the same time on a different day. Now, this is an Anna hummingbird. Now, the difference between the Anna and the Allen is the Allen has a orange or rust-colored back,
Mm-hmm.
and the Gorget is when it's in full color, it's usually orange. This is a female Anna's. Now, the male Anna looks like this.
Okay. Wow.
That's the male. In this actual bird, I got within 8 feet of this bird.
Oh, wow.
He he just didn't mind me being around.
Right.
Again, this is a male, and this is also an Anna, another male Anna. And you can see the difference in the throat. It's all black.
Yeah,
You can
definitely.
see his little feet.
Right. I know. Yeah, the way they fly is just phenomenal. The way that
Yeah,
they'll just buzz up and move and dash over things. It's incredible to watch.
yeah. And this is my little friend again.
Yeah.
Well, he's found a different perch now. This was a little bit more recent. And you can see even the flowers are beautiful.
Right. Yeah, the flowers are beautiful.
This
Ah,
was at Descanso Gardens. To believe it or not, this was shot at, I believe this was 25,600 ISO.
wow.
Yeah, this was with the R6.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that is
See it.
incredible. Ah, that guy.
Yeah, this was one of my more recent excursion I had to the Huntington. This is the same bird.
Those are fabulous. Are you sending your photos out to be published? Are you just for personal use? Are you showing them? What are you
Yeah,
doing with your
I
photos?
actually compete. I belong to SCVPA in Santa Clarita.
Hmm.
They have digital competitions a couple times a year. I did at one time, I made note cards with images. I sold them in a drugstore, a local drugstore in Santa Clarita. Um, I regularly post on 500px. Um, but from that point, I guess it's probably hard for me to find a place that would be looking for this type of image. I would probably look at Audubon.
I was gonna say Audubon, or there's some
Yeah,
probably birder magazines, or
exactly. So I've done some research on that to see if I could find anything there. That's the last image.
and to submit them, for calendars, because these are like
Yes.
beautiful. A lot of times they'll do the calendars for the organizations that support nature, if it's Audubon or some of the other organizations. I think there's I want to say it's like Cornell. It's out of the East. They have a birding, they study birds, and the word is escaping me. I think it's
Well,
upstate New York.
okay. Yeah. I mean, there are publishers that calendar publishers, but trying to find the contact. There used to be there was a book that used to come out yearly that used to list all the publishers and what their requirements were. They
Hmm.
stopped publishing the book
Oh, they did.
the last 7 or 8 years, which is really unfortunate because it was a great reference source. I mean, you can find sources on, I suppose you could find sources on the web somehow, some way. There's got to be a way to find them. Um, Nature photographer, I have a subscription to, and I had opportunities if I wanted to, where I could submit images, with stories to them. But I never, I really, I should have, but I never took that opportunity.
Right. Yeah, you should. You should share some of the images and, just some of the tips about photographing the birds, their behavior, because I do think when you see your images and you actually go out and witness a hummingbird and their behavior, you're just moved by these creatures and what we can do to like at least for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to make sure I have some bushes that they're attracted to and make sure that, it's educational. People don't
Yeah.
always know.
Yeah, I have, I've had a great opportunity. I go to the Sepulveda Wildlife Reserve a lot. It's in Van Nuys. And I meet a lot of people there that have the same passion that I do. But I also meet a lot of people there that are beginning in photography.
Hmm.
And a few have become really good friends of mine. And um, it really made me feel good that I could see where these people that were friends started and where they ended, and how their photography improved.
Oh yeah.
And we spent a lot of time together, and there were a lot of things that we used to discuss, and a lot of things that we would share ideas. There was a lot of experience that I had that I could share with these people, and to see them participate. They participated in a digital competition, one person in particular, and started to get ribbons and awards for what they did, made me feel good.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right.
Because you feel you've had a positive influence on their photography and made them a better photographer.
Yeah.
So
Who do you feel has been an influence on your photography? Has there been a certain person or a publication or
I really don't. I'll be honest with you. The inspiration to my photography probably came from my father, believe it or not. Um, he had an old Kodak Retina camera that he got in the Korean War. And he used that camera as I was growing up in the family to take family images, but he had this knack for being a little bit more than into family images.
Oh, okay.
He was more into the seascapes, and he was more into the photography aspect of it. And the funny thing about my father is that I noticed that at a young age, he started to draw like I was drawing. I
Oh.
started drawing when I was 8 years old. He's, I saw I have some of the drawings that he made
Oh, wow.
when he was a young man. And I look back at those, and at least I know where my instincts came from.
Right.
So to say he was my inspiration, I would say he was. And unfortunately, he passed at a very young age. He was
Oh,
41 years old when he passed.
wow. That is young.
Yeah, I was 16 years old at the time, and I really never had that opportunity to share that with him. And it's kind of a regret that I have, but it was also an inspiration for me to get into art and into photography a little bit more, probably a little more aggressively, I guess.
Mhm.
Really became more ambitious, and I think he's really the guy that really got me started.
Yeah. Well, it does. It's too bad he can't see all the fruits of your labor, what he's inspired in you, all of these
Yeah,
amazing photos and everything. So what's
yeah.
the longest you would say you've waited for a particular shot?
For a particular shot, I would say probably about a half an hour.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but I'll usually shoot bursts. I'll usually shoot a 5 or 6 frame burst. And sometimes it's not always planning the shot. There's a little bit of risk involved. And you just gotta hope that your camera's doing what it's supposed to do. And
Right.
then your
Yeah.
framing is right. And then everything is working the way you want to. So I would say there's a considerable amount of luck involved
Yeah.
getting
Right.
those special shots. Yeah,
Yeah, especially for the right lighting when you're outdoors like this.
exactly. Exactly. And I think when you get into a situation where I had that particular hummingbird that was always in that same spot, I had so many opportunities and so many different lighting conditions to work with. So it gave me a lot of opportunities to take different kinds of shots, so that the planning aspect of it was a lot easier.
Right, right. But like the wood duck, like you said, since that, the wood duck may not come back for 3 or 4 years. So I guess that would be the longest you might be waiting.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In terms of waiting, yes, you're talking anywhere from could be 5 to 8 years before I see another wood duck.
Are you are you a member then of some of these birding groups? Because I'm sure some of these birding groups are, they're out there, they're like kind of like a little community of knowing what's come in. And because I think it was Las Vegas, they had a particular bird that landed in the Bellagio lake pond, whatever you want to call it, where the fountains are, and they had to shut the fountains off, and like a bunch of people went to see this particular bird that it had just,
Oh, that's incredible.
yeah,
No,
it
I
landed
know.
there.
Wow, I've seen a lot of groups, like the people traveling in groups.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of people out there that are birding now. I don't know what it is, but I see a lot of people that are interested in birds that probably never were before.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it's kind of grown, which I guess is a good thing for the birds, that more people have taken an interest in
Well,
them.
yeah, maybe not for all the birds.
Yeah. So do
Uh,
you ever find you kind of get into a creative rut where you feel like you need something to kind of shake up your creativity or change how
yeah,
you're getting images?
absolutely, absolutely. And then, I think what happens a lot of times is, especially with the type of photography that I do, there's a lot of days that you'll go out that there really just isn't a lot of activity.
Yeah.
And what I like about that, because there is a positive side to everything.
That's good.
The positive side to that is you have to work a little bit harder to find what you might not ordinarily be looking for. So that pushes my creativity a little bit more, because it's almost out of boredom. It's like,
Yes.
well, geez, the birds just aren't doing anything today. What am I going to do? So I start looking at other things. I start looking at more general things. I start looking at lighting. I start looking at, I might look at a particular flower, or a particular, maybe in some cases, a particular kind of behavior of maybe an animal or something other than what I typically shoot. It might be a wooded area or a woodland, and I might decide I'm going to shoot the woodlands now.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to kind of create those opportunities when you find yourself not getting kind of what you expected for that particular day. It's work, but it's fun.
Right, right. Well, it is. And like you said, I think a lot of us that are photographers, you get excited about going out with your camera and your gear. And so if the thing that you were hoping to get isn't happening, it is. And you have to you don't want to go home empty-handed, I guess. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of times in those circumstances too, what I'll do is I'll just stay a little bit longer and work a little bit harder.
No, that's smart. That's a good way to look at it. So as a creative person, you would say just continuing to look at things around you in a different way.
Just to stop, slow down. Just slow down and look around. There's a lot of beautiful things out there that we're just not even seeing. And I really think that's kind of a shame.
So for someone who's just starting in photography, what are some tips for maybe gear or where to begin?
What I would do if I was starting out in photography, what I would probably do is, the first thing you want to do is you want to learn what your camera is capable of doing. You really have to know your camera and know what it does. So you have to take a little bit of time and kind of educate yourself. Uh, YouTube is a great resource for finding information about different kinds of cameras. You want to you want to find a niche, something that either you're interested in or something that you like to do. And I think a lot of times some people haphazardly just go out and just take photographs without they don't really have a goal.
Yeah.
They just want to shoot general things. If you really want to develop the craft, you have to pick a particular niche. You have to pick an area or something that you can concentrate and focus on and just keep working at it. And if it's not the right niche, then try something different. Learn your equipment, take the time, be extremely patient because
Yeah.
everything doesn't happen that makes a good photograph. I would say probably educate yourself as much as possible about everything. Really study light. You have to have a total understanding of light. If you don't understand light, you're going to be challenged.
Yeah. And I agree. These cameras now, they have so many functions. It's
Oh,
just
it's
it's
amazing.
it's overwhelming and the
Yes.
menu system. So again, just taking that time to just learn all the different settings. I mean, just probably spend time just figuring out what things work and what works for you, because what works for you when you photograph might be not be the same settings that works for somebody else.
Exactly. And in wildlife photography, with the sensitivity of trying to acquire focus, you really have to, not everyone can shoot the same sequence, but you can shoot that sequence many, many, many different ways, different zone focusing, different lighting, different metering. There's going to be one or two that really work well for you. For an example, I'll give you a perfect example, hummingbirds. I've probably I've probably explored 5 or 6 different shutter speeds
Oh wow,
to
yeah.
finally find the right shutter speed that works best for hummingbirds. The only way you could do it is to shoot consistently at one particular shutter speed and really scrutinize the results, be kind
Mm-hmm.
of self-critical. Um, I did finally find, I found that in particular situation with hummingbirds, probably a 3200th of a second is a good
Wow.
starting point. For some birds, with some hummingbirds, there's particular motions that they make where their wings actually slow down. So you can get away with a 1600th of a second, for example. Um, Birds in flight, you can slow down your shutter speeds a little bit. I generally shoot shutter priority when I'm shooting birds.
Mm.
I mean, to me, that's probably the best way for me to capture what I want to capture. It's limiting. You have to be a little sensitive because your ISOs might get elevated with different lighting conditions. That could be a problem. There's always a problem with probably with acquiring really accurate focus for an extended period of time. For
Yeah.
5 or 6 different frames, you might miss a couple of frames. A lot of that depends on the equipment. It depends on your technique.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Do you have shots that you keep you up at night that you've missed?
Oh God, so many, so many. And it's like I just missed it. It
Yes,
just,
I know.
and something, you can't go back. You can't go back and repeat it. So
No.
you're kind of in an unfortunate spot where it's like, what do I do? But something that motivates me because then I want to go back and try again.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's that reminder of like, okay, that pink flower was in bloom and the hummingbird was here, so I want to recreate what happened.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's certain times of year too that you'll find from season to season, you'll see the same results from season to season. There's a particular cactus flower that I've been trying to track down at the Huntington for the last 3 months. It hasn't bloomed
Wow.
yet.
Oh, it hasn't. Oh my gosh.
No, and every time I get there, I just missed it. So so now I have to pick another time to go back and try to capture that particular time.
Yeah, that's
Um,
so true.
but it's fun. I mean, that's what keeps you motivated.
Right. It is. It's that challenge. It's
Yes.
that constant challenge of wanting to get that next favorite image.
Yeah. 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 And then, you always talk about the ones that you missed.
Yes. At least as photographers we do. It just drives us
Absolutely.
crazy.
Absolutely. Or the ones that were that one great shot that was out of focus. Oh my God. What a,
Oh, yeah, or the battery died or
oh
your
geez, yeah. Yeah.
card filled up. It's those little things that remind you like, oh, always keep an extra battery or have an extra memory card or
Yes,
the
absolutely.
simple things.
Yeah. Now, there's certain things that I do to alleviate some of those issues. You always want to make sure you have an extra battery with you. Batteries in these cameras today, they may be good for 3 or 4 hours, maybe 500 to 600 shots. But this times I've gone out and shot over 800 images.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
I'll need that second battery to get through it. But a lot of that depends on what you're shooting, when you're shooting, and the kind of challenge that you've had with the particular images that particular day. And then be prepared. Have plenty of SD cards or whatever the card is that you use in your camera. Make sure you have your backups, and you have the extra cards that you need in case you ever get to the situation where you fill up a card,
Yes.
which is a pretty big challenge, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us what's in your camera bag, because sometimes people always ask like, what's in your bag? What's in your
I'm a Canon shooter. I've been a Canon shooter for many years. I started out with the 30D in 2007, and I've stuck with Canon ever since, especially digital. And even in my film days, I was shooting Canon. For me, I use two cameras primarily. I use an R7 that has a 1.6 crop factor, which extends the focal length of whatever lens you have mounted to it by 1.6. So for an example, my lens of choice is a 100 to 400 millimeter lens. So with that particular lens and a crop factored R7, I'll be shooting from 160 to 640 millimeters. And that extra reach is sometimes critical when it comes to hummingbirds in particular.
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm going to a particular place where I know I can't get too close to the bird, then I'll probably use the R7. For the images that I want a tad bit image quality and a lot more dynamic range, I use the full frame. I use the Canon R6 Mark II. I also have the RF version of the 100 to 400 millimeter lens on that particular camera. And I prefer that lens because of the weight. My older 100 to 400 version 2, it's a 3 pound lens.
Yes. Yeah.
The RF lens is a pound and a half.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that difference is critical, especially these days where I may shoot from anywhere from 3 to 6 hours, and
Oh.
a day wears on, that lens gets very heavy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And with the R6, that I can use at closer range. Um, the dynamic range is better. The ISO performance is better. I've salvaged photographs at extremely high ISOs with that particular camera. The other gear that I carry, part of my gear, but it's not gear, it's clothing.
Okay. Yeah.
I do wear camouflage.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes, and that depends on where I'm shooting. When shooting in a public garden, you don't need it. Birds are used to people.
Okay.
But when you're shooting in a wooded area where birds are typically a lot more skittish, you really need some type of camouflage. And maybe if it's just and I'm not talking about a ghillie suit. I'm talking about just a shirt and a pair of pants that's
Right.
camouflage. And in particular, I can give you an example. Kingfishers are extremely skittish birds. Their
Oh,
eyesight is incredible. And if you can get within 100 yards of a kingfisher, you're lucky.
wow.
So what you have to do, you have to take advantage of the environment you're in. So if I'm in a wooded area, then I can typically get a little bit closer to that bird than I typically could. Otherwise, if I was using, I mean, you never want to wear a white shirt or a yellow shirt when you're out taking photographs of birds.
That's smart though. People don't wouldn't always think of that, especially if they're
Mhm.
new to bird or wildlife photography.
No, it's to me, it's part of that. It's actually, I think you have to consider it as part of your gear. You want to wear neutral colors, browns, greens, not the bright greens of the brighter browns. You want to wear more of the earthy colors.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, even when I go to the Huntington Library, for example, I'll wear something that's an earth color, a green or a brown, something that's a little bit less discernible to a bird because it's not that bright.
Right.
And that gives you a little bit more opportunity. Not a lot, but a little bit. And then there's certain places where the birds are so used to people. I've been, if anybody knows what a night heron is,
Yes.
night,
Yeah.
and night heron's a beautiful bird, but it's very difficult to get close to them. You go to a place like Lake Balboa or in Van Nuys, and I've gotten within 6 feet of a night heron.
Really?
Yes, it's just taking a headshot. And he just stood there looking at me. So,
Wow.
so like I said, it depends on where you are, and you want to be aware of those things. As far as gear, I prefer a holster to a backpack. It just makes carrying a lot lighter.
So is the
So
holster one that goes kind of on the front?
I usually use a holster that I sling over actually over my neck and my shoulder,
Oh, okay.
and it falls on my hip. The ones that I've used, I have for all my cameras. I've never used a backpack for camera gear because to me it's just a little bit, for me it's too cumbersome.
Yeah.
I just prefer to be a little bit lighter weight and something that's a little easier to move around in. And I find that the holsters are usually the best thing. They'll hold one camera. You can put your cards in them, your batteries in them, the little things you might need in case of an emergency. You want to be prepared with either a plastic bag or some type of cover in case you're caught in any kind of rainy or wet conditions to
Yeah.
protect your gear. I mean, you don't want, that's the worst thing that could happen is to get your gear soaking wet and have it stop working in the middle of a shoot.
Right.
So you want to prepare for those things. Um, the other gear that I typically use, really, it's just the camera. I usually stick to one lens. I don't use multiple lenses. I don't change lenses in the field at all.
Okay.
I just don't feel it's necessary. If I know what I'm going to shoot that particular day, I know the equipment that I have to use in the best lens for that job.
Right.
So I try to limit the amount of equipment that I carry at all times.
I think that's smart too. And it kind of goes back to being the lighter you are, you're more agile, you're not getting weighted down.
Yeah, it makes it probably a little less painful.
Right. Yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
good word for
I,
it, right?
I mean, if you can, I mean, I've carried a camera with just that 100 to 400 lens. After 3 hours, my arm is sore from just holding the
Yeah,
lens.
right.
And
Yeah.
you don't realize the bulk and the weight of those things because you kind of got used to them, especially if you're still shooting with a DSLR, because the
Yeah.
camera bodies and the lenses are all heavier than they are for mirrorless.
Right, right.
And it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I think it also impacts like if you aren't comfortable like with what clothing you have on. I say it to a lot of people. if you're too cold, too hot, whatever it is, that's going to take over, and now you're not able to really focus and enjoy what you're out there to photograph.
Yeah, in particular when on the really hot days, I mean, it can be extremely difficult to shoot in a hot day. And especially if I'm not getting out until 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
In California, at 10 o'clock in the morning in Santa Clarita, it could be 100 degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I go to Van Nuys and it's 95, and walking around, I always recommend anybody that's going to do any type of shooting, make sure you're bringing some water with you. You have to have some kind of water. I would also recommend some type of replenishment, maybe like a Gatorade or something that you drink on the way, maybe after the shoot,
Right.
just to recuperate. Um, I actually sometimes bring aspirin.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I have aspirin with me in case I need aspirin for any purposes. If I have God forbid I hurt myself, or I have any aches and pains that come up while I'm shooting, at least I have something I can take to nullify the pain a little bit.
Right, exactly.
And especially if you're shooting by yourself. I mean, you have to be extremely careful. You're shooting out in the woods completely alone, there's a risk.
Yeah, that is true. There is wildlife.
Yeah, there is wildlife and it's not all friendly.
Right, exactly. So are there places or birds that are on your wish list that you'd like to photograph?
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. This is a particular season. I'm looking for one particular bird. It's called a bullock oriole.
Oh,
It always seems to appear this time of year. And I've been trying to capture this bullock oriole now for about a month,
oh wow.
and only successfully gotten close enough to probably get off about 5 or 6 shots.
Ah,
As a matter of fact, I went out today and they were just all too far away. So
interesting.
yeah, that's the bird of the season for me right now. Um, Generally, the winter months, I'm looking for the birds of prey. Birds of prey you're gonna find in September, October, November, December.
Right.
That's generally the time of the year that they're most active. The birds of prey I like are the ospreys, red-tailed hawks. I've seen occasional peregrine falcons, kind of rare. American kestrels.
Oh wow.
It's a little falcon, beautiful bird. Um, as far as birds of prey, there's always turkey vultures. Some of those things are kind of interesting, but they're typically seasonal. As
Mm-hmm.
far in terms of frequency, you may see them year round, but there's certain times of year that they're more prevalent than others.
Right.
So now I'm going into the summertime. Now I'm going to start looking at things like terns, shorebirds. Shorebirds, I'll look for great herons, white egrets, cattle egrets, all the shorebirds. They're fun to shoot, although they're year round also. The pelicans, white American pelicans.
Oh.
Oh, they're a
Yeah,
blast to shoot.
they're beautiful.
Oh,
And
they're
you don't
gorgeous.
see the white pelicans everywhere. I mean, they're gorgeous actually.
I just actually, I went through that season. That was the winter month too. That was probably, I believe that was November and December. There's a migration of Americans go to Sepulveda Wildlife Reserve. And we're probably 10 to 20 pelicans.
Oh wow.
The beautiful thing about those pelicans, when they're all in the air in flight, they fly in like a formation. It's amazing.
Yes, yeah.
It's just like, I mean, when you talk about looking at things differently, instead of focusing on the single bird,
Right.
you watch these pelicans in flight, you get maybe 3 or 4 of them paired up, and they fly. It's almost like a dance.
Yes. Yeah.
Their wings are all in, I don't know. It's amazing. It's just to watch them. It's like synchronized flying.
Yeah, it really is. And you're right about instead of focusing on one bird, just the patterns of a group of them like that.
Yes, absolutely. And pelicans are great to shoot in groups. That's one of the birds that's fun to shoot in a group.
So any other birds for summer besides the shorebirds? That's kind of the big thing in the summer.
Yeah, well, the shorebirds would probably be the easiest thing in the summer. There's still osprey out there. They're just a little bit more difficult to find. Um, Also, you get into some of the probably rarer birds. I would call them rarer birds, birds that aren't so frequent, especially in this area.
Yeah.
Things like mountain bluebirds, for example.
Yeah,
Mountain,
those
they're not like a regular bluebird. Everybody says all bluebirds are the same. No, bluebirds aren't all the same.
no, they're
Mountain
not.
bluebirds are a completely different animal. But again, that's a spring bird.
Yeah.
You know, you get into some of the finches, the lesser goldfinch, beautiful bird. Um, the vermilion flycatcher, one of my favorites. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. There may be some of those around during the summer months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would probably spend a little more time in the summer, probably at the Huntington, because the Huntington has a lot of areas of shade,
Oh,
and the
that's
birds prefer
true.
the shade to the open light.
Right.
Um, Although there's probably a lot more shade in other locations, there's probably, for whatever reasons, they seem to be a little bit more susceptible to heat in certain areas. So those are the areas I would probably stay away from.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably take a trip down to Bolsa Chica.
Oh,
Bolsa Chica,
nice.
yeah, Bolsa Chica is real nice. A lot of shorebirds. And what's nice about Bolsa Chica is they have like a pier that a walkway that goes across the water.
Oh,
Yeah, so you get a great opportunity to get close-up shots of birds in the water, and then the terns usually fly overhead. So it's a nice location. It's a small location, but there's a lot of bird activity there. That's probably a place I would definitely hit in the summer
hmm.
for
Nice.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So what about landscape photography? I know you do a little bit of landscape
yeah.
photography.
My landscape photography, I like the wood. I like the wooded areas. Believe it or not, there's a beautiful grove of old oak trees at Descanso Gardens. Beautiful. And if it's taken the right way, it looks like you're in the forest.
Oh, wow.
I took some images there just the other day. It was incredible. And again, it was just a matter of really kind of looking at what you're photographing and saying to yourself, all right, well, yeah, there's people here, and yeah, it's a public garden, but yeah, it looks like the woods to me. So,
Right. Yeah.
so instead of looking at maybe the bigger picture and shooting maybe wide, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you might shoot, I don't know, 70 to 200 millimeter in a wooded area. Gives you a little bit of range, but not too much. But in a public garden, it takes that area or makes that area smaller so you can focus on a section instead of a big picture.
Right.
Um, the gardens, what I like about gardens is I love pathways. Any pathway that's surrounded by flowers and trees and all the beautiful, just incredible plants that just around the path.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you get these lighting patterns in a path. That are fascinating to watch. You look at them and it's like, geez, that looks really kind of nice. Or
Right.
you might have top light, just the top of the tree is lit. Or
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at a green garden or a path, and one part of the green plants on the right-hand side are lit by the sun while the other ones are in the shade, and you get all those shades of green.
Right.
Yeah, you might not look twice, but if you do, you might see something that's interesting to shoot. And then, of course, there's always flowers to shoot. The roses are just blooming in California,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
just blooming, very late this year, extremely fresh. I mean, incredible. I've taken several pictures in several locations of roses that the colors are just spectacular.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there was a more rain this past year in California.
Yes.
So did you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
out to the wildflowers? Did you get out to see?
Yes. You know, it's funny because I never had that opportunity to go up to the Lancaster area for the poppies.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but what I did see is when you go to even these public gardens and even the wildlife reserve, you'll see a lot of those wildflowers that are growing in abundance. And with all the rain that we had,
Yes.
uh, California is probably more green right now than I've seen it probably since I got here in '99.
Wow.
It just this late. I mean, it's April now, you know, and typically you get into June, July, you know what happens, everything's brown.
Yeah, it's all brown.
Yep. But there's been so much rain. We had so much rain over the wintertime, heavy rains, that the green is lingered on. The Sepulveda Wildlife Reserve had at least two major fires in the last 10 years.
Mm,
Everything was burnt to a crisp.
wow.
Everything. I mean, the place was, it was sad. It was very, very sad. Since we've gotten the rain that we got in the last couple of years, with all the new growth, it's
Oh,
unbelievable how
wow.
green it is now. From all that death to all this new life, wow, unbelievable.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. And I've have heard reports of even like people flying into LAX, just the poppy profusion that you could see lining
Yes,
some of the runways. So
yes,
unprecedented. I mean, just
yeah.
the
You even see it on the freeways. You drive on the freeways, you look at the hills. The hills aren't all brown now. You'll see some color. It's beautiful to see.
yeah, that's great. Well, this has been great, Lou. So where can people
Thank you.
find your photos if they'd like to take a look at more photos?
Well, let me show you. Stop this here for a minute. Give me a minute and I am actively involved with 500px only because of what they provide. Um, unfortunately,
Is that like Fine Art America where people can order a print or?
no, unfortunately, it's just a place where you basically share photos and you'll get responses back from people in the group.
Oh, nice.
Let me set this up for you.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, I mean, your hummingbird photos are stunning. It's something I've always been impressed with. It's just they're so beautiful.
To be honest with you, I have a lot of osprey photographs. I have a lot of other photographs I would love to have shared, but I focused on hummingbirds today.
I know
Today,
because of me. I know. It was
well, and I spend most of my time with hummingbirds.
I
So
just find them so fascinating, and I really
I do
hadn't
too.
had that close-up encounter until I got to Vegas, and all of a sudden it's just like, and I could see how like they're territorial. They'll kind of like fight one guy off for the feeder. They can't be on the feeder at the same time. They're just fascinating to me, and yet so small. I mean,
Oh, I'm going to tell you, they are so much fun to shoot. I mean, and they have these personalities.
yes, and
I
just the
mean,
sounds they make, like you said, it's very
yes,
distinctive, and it's cheerful. You hear them chittering, like they're just talking, and then and then if
I,
you're patient, you can. I
yes.
used to not see that they would sit, but now it's like, oh wow, he's just sitting on that branch, like he's just there, like for longer than I would imagine. It's like, oh my goodness,
It's, like I said, that one hummingbird at the Huntington Library. I mean, I saw it so many times, I was going to name it.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. I have one of those doorbell cameras like most people do
Yeah.
now, and it's like I left my hummingbird feeder was empty for a day or 2, and one morning my doorbell thing went off and there was a hummingbird, its face right in the doorbell camera, and I thought, if that's not a sign that he's like, "Come on, lady, fill the feeder up," you know? So
Yeah.
I
You
was
know,
like,
there's a little trick to shooting hummingbirds too, you know, if you set up your feeder somewhere near a tree or near some branches,
I
you just
need
wait
to.
for it to kind of go away because it'll perch nearby.
Yeah, that's what I need to do is work on a background
Yeah,
situation because
yeah,
so far,
yeah.
just grabbing your camera randomly doesn't always work, you're
Oh my goodness. Yeah. But that's what makes it fun.
yes, exactly. Oh, good, you put your 500 px site and we can follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, 500px, that's all. Actually, you could probably just do a Google search on LMC 5669, and that would probably bring you to the 500px site. And then I use Instagram also. I also have Flickr account. I have a couple of websites, but my websites, to be honest, they're not up to date. So I wouldn't share them at this time. Maybe a future date I would.
Yeah, no, but if someone's really wanting one of your photos, I'm sure if they reach out, you might consider printing something and selling it to them, just
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
there's that joy in knowing someone's admiring your photo on their wall.
Well, yeah, and it makes it makes you really kind of I guess proud that you've been able to create something that somebody else likes besides yourself.
Right, right,
You
yeah.
know, there's a lot of satisfaction in that. And I love to share images, and I could talk about birds for days.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much, Lou. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.